So in today's lecture, we will be discussing about demand, the other side or other force in the market. Now, as I mentioned previously, demand and supply are two opposing forces who kind of interact against each other. We already did the supply, but let's focus on demand today. So let's first define demand. What does this demand mean in economics? So the term quantity demanded is very important. The quantity demanded is the amount of a good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. The word willing and able are very key words. That means it's not that I'm willing to buy something, I should be able to buy it as well. That means I need to have resources to buy the product that I want. So in the world of economics, just the willingness is not enough. For example, I might have a willingness to buy a expensive car like Ferrari, but I may not have the money to buy that car. If I don't have the money to buy the car, in economics, it does not mean the demand. So demand needs to be backed by the ability to buy a product. Now related to this concept is the concept of law of demand. Now like law of supply, there's a law of demand which states that the quantity demanded of a good decreases when the price of the good rises, keeping other things equal. So it says that there's an inverse relationship between price of the good and quantity demanded, and that is the law of demand. That means as price increases, you buy less of it, keeping other things equal. It means that you don't change other factors that might affect demand, for example income, test, and all these things. So if you assume the income, test, everything remains same, then for a person, as price increases, you buy less of those commodities. And you can imagine this is a basic theory that's been used by all the sellers. Think about Macy's or JCPenney or any company or any store that runs sale. What's the idea? Reduce the price, more people will buy your product. That's the reason sales are given, because you know that there's an inverse relationship between the price of the good and the quantity demanded. So in this slide, we are going to do a demand schedule. Now demand schedule shows the relationship in the price of something, in this case ice cream cones, and the quantity of the ice cream cones demanded. So you try to find out the relationship. So if the price is the ice cream cone is $0, which means free, Catherine perhaps is going to have 12 units of ice cream or 12 cones of ice cream. When ice cream price increases from $0 to 50 cents, that Catherine might be willing to buy less of it. Now Catherine has to shell out some money to buy the stuff. So she might be willing to consume 10 units of ice cream. And as you see, as the price increases from 50 cents to $3, you can see Catherine's demand decreases to 0. And this is the law of demand, which means the inverse relationship between the price of the product and the quantity demanded. In the next, we'll try to put all these things in a graphical format. We'll measure price on the vertical axis and quantity of the ice cream on the horizontal axis. This is the Catherine's demand schedule, and we'll try to plot all these things. So let's start with $3. Catherine is willing to buy 0 ice creams because she doesn't want to consume anything. So at $2.50, that means here Catherine is willing to buy 2 ice creams. That means this is the point. And if you keep on doing it, at $2, Catherine is willing to buy 4. At $1.50, Catherine wants to do 6. And then if you keep on doing it, at $0, Catherine is willing to buy at most 12 ice creams. And if you join it, this is your demand curve, which is always downward sloping. Now, why demand is downward sloping? Because there's an inverse relationship between the price of the cone or commodity in this case and the quantity demanded. So you can see here, as price decreases, quantity demand increases. As price decreases from $2 to $1.50, quantity demanded decreases from 4 to 6. And this is a basic law in economics which we use again and again. So next time you hear law of demand, is basically saying the inverse relationship that exists between the price of the product and the quantity demanded, keeping everything else constant. Now, what does this everything else constant mean? Now, obviously, price is not the only factor that affects demand. There can be other things that affects demand. Now, let's start understanding these other factors that may affect demand. One is obviously the price of the good. Other is consumer income. Now, we all know as our income increases, our purchasing pattern changes. When we have more moderate income, we might buy a particular kind of cars like Toyotas and Hondas. When we have more income, we might get into more luxury brands like BMW, Mercedes or Acura. And if we have tons of money, like super rich people, we even go up to like Bugatti, Ferrari and all this kind of other cars that people tend to buy. So income plays an important role. Price of related goods matters. For example, if you are struggling between buying an iPhone and an Android phone, and you know, like if iPhone is too expensive and if similar quality Android phone you can get it for cheaper, you tend to buy Android phone. Again, it's a relative price that matters. Tests, obviously demand depends on tests. You don't want to buy blankets during summer, or you don't want to have a lot of ice cream during the winter. So tests do matter based on the scenarios. Expectations, again demand depends on expectations. If you are expecting that tomorrow gas prices would be higher, you tend to buy more gas today. You try to fill up your car today. Or if you know tomorrow hotel price is going to go up, if you're going to travel, perhaps you want to book the hotel rooms today. And finally, the number of buyers. If you have large number of buyers, typically demand is much higher. If you have less number of buyers, demand is lower.